Hi everybody, this is going to be the beginning of a series of PvP videos for this stress test beta. It's not for very long, so I don't know how much footage I'm going to be able to get. But before I start up the actual PvP, I'm just going to do a quick overview of the build I'm using for this Ranger character that I am playing. I really like the Ranger in PvP. He feels quite useful and versatile. I guess we'll start off. First of all, I've got two spider pets. As you can see, there's one and the other. I use them primarily not for damage or anything, but simply because of their F2 ability. On this one, it's a vulnerability and a weakness debuff, and on the other one, it is a paralyzing attack. The pets are probably the thing I'm least sure of in this build. I don't really find them all that useful. It might be better if I just had a bear, like most other rangers, to just take a lot of hits and stick around and annoy people. But for now, I'm using my two spiders just to try and be a little different. On my first weapon set, I have a sword and a warhorn. I use this, and once I get into main combat with people. I like it. I like using the sword. I know a lot of rangers will use longbows, and I don't see a whole lot of rangers using one-handed swords. They like to use great swords, it seems. But I really like the maneuverability that the long sword gives me. The Hornet Sting and Serpent Strike let you move around and dodge quite a bit. You can really annoy your enemies. Very good for fighting single targets, especially the weaker classes, squishier classes. Hunter's Call on the Warhorn, not a great thing, not really. I mean, it's okay. I really think they need to do something with that skill. It's not, I guess it's just decent, whatever. But then, of course, Call of the Wild is the real reason I have it, just because that's such a good buff. Move speed is great, and I like it a lot. Second weapon set, we've got an axe and a torch. Now, I used to use the torch with the sword, and on my second weapon set I had a longbow, which is pretty typical. But I actually like using the axe and the torch because you can use the torch to lay down your bonfire, and then you can throw your axes through the fire to create fiery torches, which is just cool no matter how you look at it. Also, of course, axes will bounce from target to target, so if you're not on a single target, you're fighting multiple people, you can use the axe. I like to try and use the axe when I'm approaching battle, and then switch to the sword once I am in melee range. And that is a dev. That's cool. Hello, Nightmare. It's the first time I've seen a dev in any of the betas I've been playing. Anyway, my utility skills, I'm using Troll Unduant. That's not really set in stone. I oftentimes will switch to Healing Spring, depending on how much team play I'm getting in any one battleground. Some people like to run around with each other, some people don't. Usually I use Troll Unduant just because I honestly just like the slower heal over time. It makes it feel like I have a little bit more survivability. I don't know if that's actually true, and that, like I said, is not set in stone. My other utilities, I've got Muddy Terrain, which I find very useful at the start of a fight. When you're setting up a fight, you can, people don't like to be slow. It just seems to affect them somehow. And of course, you can also use it to stop people from running away. You can use it to slow down people at choke points. I find it to be a very useful skill. I like it. I think it has a lot of use. I have Lightning Reflexes. Once again, that's just more maneuverability. I like this build to be very mobile. I like to be moving around a lot. So I can dodge, I can Hornet Strike back, I can roll in, roll around, Lightning Reflexes out and get my stamina back. It's a very mobile build, and I like that. It's my main goal in PvP is usually not to just focus down people right away, but instead rather to be able to keep moving and hitting targets from all directions whenever possible. Next, I've got sharpening stones. I use that whenever I'm planning to really get in on a target. Whenever I commit and I don't really plan on dodging around so much, just to hit all those bleeds very quickly and layer them on fast so that the target, you know, will die hopefully quickly if at all possible. Then of course I've got Rampage as one. Just I often use it as just like an oh shit thing. I actually use Rampage as one more often to escape bad situations than to use in combat. But I do, if I see someone who just needs to get focused down quickly, I will hit usually Rampages one as well as Sharpened Blades and just unload on them with everything I have. Yeah, so that's that. We'll take a quick look at my skills. I've got, you know, 10 marksmanship, 30 skirmishing, 30 wilderness. The wilderness I'm really only doing for the toughness, skirmishing for precision and critical damage, and marksmanship I just like the critical, the cripple, and I also like the opening strike that applies vulnerability. I like my first hit to be decent.
Excelsior.
So, you know, when I first hit them, they take damage, and if I've combined it with this, it can be a pretty nasty first hit. And then combined with this, once you get them low, it's harder for them to escape. Then you go over to skirmishing. Swiftness when switching weapons in combat, that's just good. Swiftness is always good. I've got critical hits that grant my might to my pets. I actually just switched that from increased damage to my pets, increasing my pets' critical damage, which, I mean, we'll see how it works. It's not really all that great. I don't really like the skirmishing first tier of skills, attributes. I don't know what to call them right now. Skills, yeah. But I think we'll see how that works. I think it'll be all right. Next up, we have Fury when swapping weapons. Just, you know, that much better. Swapping weapons. I do swap weapons a lot, so buffs when it goes. I mean, it's not like you get to choose it anyway. Bleeding on critical hits, why not? It's good. I have a high critical chance. I can combine it with my sharpened stones. Bleeding stacks, so that's all good. 10% more damage off flanking, and I'm highly mobile, so that's fine too. And Moment of Clarity, I combined it with this with another ability I'll show you in a second. Combine this with Hide in Plain Sight with Rampages 1. I can usually get away from any fight that's turned bad or any sort of like ganking attempt. I can usually, you know, cloak automatically, run fast automatically, and then hit Rampages 1. I have escaped quite a few kills that otherwise I don't think I would have. And you might say, well, that's not a big deal, you should just stand and fight. But I think it's better to waste the other team's time, because at this point in PvP, especially in this game, the whole team will come after you almost always to get a kill. And my thinking is, if 4 of their team members are chasing me around and they can't see me and I'm fine, and I'm not dying and giving them points, but I'm keeping them away from capture points, I'm keeping them away from our other team members, to me that's worth it. I think that that's a good, you know, way. Obviously I'm not trying to always just be baiting people around and running away, but I like the survivability of those 2 attributes. Skills, anyway. Wilderness Survival, I get Natural Vigor to increase endurance regeneration for more dodging. Offhand skills recharge 20% faster, which is fantastic because I'm using lots of offhand skills. We've got 2 seconds of protection from my pets. That just makes them a little bit tougher, no big deal. Sword skills recharge 20% faster, and since 3 of my main skills I'm using are sword skills, that's perfectly fine for me. And 5% extra damage and health is above 90%. That's once again tying into my strategy of being able to deal a lot of damage up front right away, and then be able to start dodging around. I like to front load my damage with this
I could outrun a centaur.
So I think maybe this might be a slightly unconventional ranger build. I'm not using a longbow, which is like the staple, you know, of all rangers that I see in PvP. And I'm not using a greatsword, which I see a lot of people of. There's nothing wrong with a greatsword. I like a greatsword. I probably will use a greatsword eventually. But I like this build a lot. I seem to have a lot of success with it. I probably won't now that I'm filming it. But I'm gonna go in and see if I can get some games working, and I'll see you in the mists.